All right. So previously, I showed you how to graph a scatter plot on both Texas Instruments and NumWorks calculators. Now we're going to go a step further. We're going to plot also the X bar, Y bar point, and we're going to plot a line of regression on each of these calculators. So the first thing you want to do is you want to enter in these values of X and these values of Y, which is what I've already done. Um, and then calculate, X bar and Y bar. So let's do that really quick. I'm just kind of following these instructions here. So let's first go to the list editor. And you can see I've put my list of X values and Y values in list one and list two. So to get X bar, Y bar, the mean of the X's and the mean of the Y's, so mean of the X values and mean of the Y values, I can go to stat, go to calc, and do two variable stats. And I'll put list one was my list of X values, and list two was my list of Y values, and hit calculate. And there's my X bar, Y bar, so 3, 2.8. So what I'm going to do is this value of 3, 2.8, I'm going to go back to my list editor. I'm going to put 3 here and 2.8 there. So this is the X value and the Y value. This is my X bar and Y bar. So I'm going to plot these as a point. Okay. Let's flip over to the NumWorks calculator. And you want to go to the distribution, or the regression app. Click OK. You can see I've already put the values there. Now to get X bar and Y bar, you just need to come up to the Stats tab, click OK. And X bar and Y bar is this first row where it says the mean. So here, the mean of the X1 values is 3, and the mean of the Y values is 2.8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to come back over to the Data tab, and I'm going to put 3 and 2.8 right here and hit execute. And I don't even think I need to do that. I don't think I need to do that. But let's do that anyway. Just bear in mind, I don't think I need to put this in. I think the numbers calculator is going to calculate X bar and Y bar for us. But we'll double check that here in a minute. Okay. Now let's go ahead and graph what we got. So in order to graph these points, we want to go to stat plot on the Texas Instruments calculator. So I'm going to hit second and Y equals. And it looks like plot one is on from a previous example, and it's set for list one and list two. So it's on. If yours is off, turn it on. Set the X list or set the type to this first icon here. This is scatter plot. Okay, so hit enter on that. Then set the X list to list one and the Y list to list two. And make the mark, maybe this first one, it's the biggest one. And I'll make this, let's change the color. Yeah, we'll leave the color at blue. Okay. Now let's go back to our stat plot. And let's go to plot two, hit enter. And let's turn it on. I'm going to make this a scatter plot. Now this is going to be for our X bar, Y bar. Okay, and so the X value of that point was in list 3, and the Y value was in list 4. And we'll make it red. That way it'll stand out. Okay, now we can hit zoom, go down to zoom stat, and let's see what we got. There we go. So here's our 5 data points, and X bar, Y bar is this red one in the middle. Maybe instead of being a red square, Let's just make it a solid red cross, maybe. Okay, that might not show up better, but it'll show up different. So now we can just hit zoom, zoom stat, and hit enter. Okay, so there it is. So now you can see that actually looks different from the rest. That way you don't accidentally confuse it for being an actual data point. Okay, numworks calculator. Now we can just come over to go up to the graph tab and hit OK. Now let's see here. Actually, let's go. Okay. All right, it's using the scale that we had in previously. So if I go to auto and click OK, it's going to automatically set the scale here, which I think we can do a little bit better. Um, yeah, I think we can do better here. Let's do this. So let's go to axes and our x values will go from 0 to 6. And our y values will also go from 0 to 6. Confirm. Okay, now that shows up a little bit better. And you can see that our data points are in red and the X bar, Y bar uh, is here in blue. Okay, it's a different color. If you want to switch between one data set and another, instead of hitting left and right, you click up and down. Let's see, let's click down again. There we go. So now we're on the blue data set. Okay, but there's only one. So I'll click up and it puts me back on the other data set. You can do something similar to that with the Texas Instruments. You hit the trace button and you can click to the right and it'll go within the points in plot 1. But now if you click up, or let's see, click down, now we're in plot 2, which is composed of list 3 and list 4 lists. And it's giving us the 0.3, 2.8, which is our X bar, Y bar. Okay, so we plotted the scatter plot and the X bar, Y bar. Now, what about the line of regression? So we can't sketch it by hand on the calculator. Instead, we need to use the calculator to calculate this. So to do it first with the Texas Instruments calculator, we'll click the Stat button. We'll go to Calculate. And let's go to this first one, which it says linreg AX plus B. So linreg stands for linear regression, and A is the slope of the line, and B is the y-intercept. So I'm going to click Enter, and it wants the list of X values. That's going to be list 1. And then it wants the list of Y values, which is list 2. Okay. Yeah. So now we can just hit calculate, and it tells you that the slope of your line of regression is 0.4, and the y-intercept of your line of regression is 1.6. So what we've got is we have the equation y equals 0.4x plus 1.6. And really quickly, I want to point out, if your calculator does not show r squared and r, it's because you do not have stat diagnostics on, which is what I talked about at the end of a video earlier in this section. So make sure you check an earlier video. Or if I remember, I'll show it at the end of this one. But if you're missing this r and r squared, that's important, and you need to change a setting on your calculator to turn that on. Okay, but for now, we have this equation, y equals 0.4x plus 1.6. So how do we graph that here? Well, we want to go to this button that says y equals, but we don't want the stat plot. Okay, we just want to hit y equals by itself. And now this will let us plot functions. And so the function we want to plot is going to be 0.4. And now to put the letter x there, you hit this button next to the green alpha key. You click that once, and it'll put an x. And then we've got plus 1.6. And now if you hit graph, now it's plotting the line of regression through our data points and right through the x bar, y bar calculated point. We can make that stand out a little bit. If we go to y equals and we move the cursor, we can move the cursor. Now this is the color version. Okay, we can change the color of the line if we, it might be better not to change the color. Let's actually plot it here. So let's turn this one on. Oops. Turn that. Oh, okay, maybe I gotta type something there first. Let's put 0.4x plus 1.6. And let me go up here and clear that out. Okay, so now it's gonna plot this and it'll be red. There we go. So that makes it stand out a little bit more. On the NumWorks calculator, here we're looking at the graph. All we need to do is we need to go up to these options here across the top and go to regression, click OK. And we want to do regression of this data set, x1 and y1. Those were our x values and y values. And we want to do a linear regression. So we want it in this form, mx plus b. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So click OK. And there you have it. Now, I think once you, on the NumWorks calculator, I think once you hit regression and you do a linear regression, it gives you x bar, y bar. Okay, that's how you can get it. You can get it by going to stats also, but as soon as you hit regression, it tells you what that is. And it labels it as a separate point here too. So I'm clicking up and down. Okay. Let's see here. And so if I'm click up and down, it's giving me different values here. So it tells me the mean point, which is my x bar, y bar. If I click down again, here it gives me my line of regression. Okay, y equals 0.4x plus 1.6, in addition to this x bar, y bar. Now, I think it'll give us this equation also. If we go up to the Stats tab, and if we click OK, let me see here. I think once we've chosen regression, yes, you see where it says regression here, y? Okay, this tells us the format of the line of regression, y equals mx plus b, and it gives us our value of the slope, which is 0.4, and it gives us the value of our y-intercept, which is 1.6. Now, the other thing it gives us is it gives us this value of r, which is the correlation coefficient. You don't have to do anything special to get that. It's just right there. And r squared, which we'll talk about, is coefficient of determination. It gives us that value there too. Okay. So, that's how you can plot your line of regression as well as, get the line of regression equation as well on both calculators. Let me just flip back over one last thing for Texas Instruments people. You remember I had mentioned that if you run linreg ax plus b and you go to calculate and you don't see r and r squared, then what you need to do is you need to click the mode button, go down to stat diagnostics here, and yours is probably off. You need to come over here and turn stat diagnostics on. Once it's on, then when you do linreg ax plus b, that r and r squared will show up. All right, and let me show you one more trick. So you know how we just ran, we just ran linreg ax plus b. Okay, put in list one, list two, hit calculate. And then we got our value of A, value of B. We came over here to y equals, and we put it in here. Well, what we can do is we can have the linreg equation put it here for us. So notice that this equation is labeled y1. This equation is labeled y2. This equation is labeled y3. So let me do something. Let me come here and clear this out. So we got no equations here at all. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to tell linreg to take the line of regression and put it right here, maybe under y2. We're going to tell it to put it there. So how do we do that? So let's go and run. Let's run linreg like we normally would. Except now you see this fourth option that says store the regression equation. We're going to store it, this equation that it comes up with, we're going to store it in y2. Okay, so where do we find it? It's y2 is one of our variables. So if we hit the variables button, we can come over here to y variables, and I think we want function. There we go, and put y2. This y2 is the y2 that's in this y equals button. Okay, so now if we hit calculate, okay, we get this screen like we did before, but now if we hit y equals, look at that. It put it automatically here in y2 for us. Okay, so that's a little time-saving trick. And it also, sometimes this slope won't be a nice decimal like this and a nice y-intercept like this. It'll be like 10 digits long for both, 10 decimal places long. So by having the calculator automatically put it there, you're going to have the most accurate line of regression equation that you end up graphing. Okay. All right. So that concludes that little tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions.